focus. So the next topics that I'm going to take now here is going to be a little more interesting, guys, for you guys to really, you're going to smile now. So in continuation of it, so you guys have understood what exactly is S3 storage is. S3 storage compared to normal storage, it's amazing because it will store in the form of key value pair, and that key value pair is the unique thing here. Okay, we did a hands-on on that. So we also discussed the differentiation. A normal file system will have a directory and files, but S3 will store what? A key value object storage. That is a demonstration. And a normal file will have disk write, but here we have object ID. I demonstrated now object ID plus metadata in the JSON file. That is what happened here. So here you use manual metadata also, but we can do all the versioning here happens with UUID. That is what I tell, unique ID. Okay. So super, guys. Now S3 internals I have demonstrated. Because S3 internal, what happens, I'll demonstrate. S3 internally uses a file system, not a POSIX approach. It is using object key map to flat, versioning metadata stored in a dynamo like key value storage. That is what they do here. They use internal an algorithm called Markli trees. Okay. And they also use conflict-free replicated data types for version controlling and partition also. So that is the internals. Now I'm going to demonstrate the next key topics. So hopefully everyone here will understand now Lambda. So most of you would say that, hey, Venkatesh, I know Lambda. I understand what is Lambda. But tell me internals of Lambda. How Lambda internally is working? Are you excited for this, guys? Because I'm going to demonstrate now how actually Lambda works. What's the key use case of Lambda? How I'm going to demonstrate with code, so you can understand Lambda use case. Okay, why we are using a Lambda, and so what is the use case? So see, basically Lambda functions are they generally Lambda we are using it here, but the demonstration I'm going to do is. Yeah, we will do that also, guys. No problem. So before we do that, we're gonna demonstrate here with some code example and then demonstrate it. So why AWS built it? So it need an instant compute on demand without provisioning containers were too slow generally. So because it wants instant compute, the compute should be very instant on demand without any provisioning. Okay. So before we talk about that, in the Lambda, what's happening? And so the use case of see in cloud, generally in cloud, Lambda use cases. If anyone asks as okay, generally we say, so we use that as a event-driven architecture because automatically when we trigger some code in response to events, that can be yes, exactly, job controls. Yes, so whenever there is any HTTP request event or any database change or there is any kind of file upload to file upload to any S3 bucket, so these all are event-driven architecture. If any events are happening, then event-driven architecture code is executed by Lambda functions only. So if there is any, suppose if user uploads one image to S3 bucket, then Lambda will be invoked and it will save that images to another S3 bucket also, or maybe you can resize that image or do some action based on the event. Okay, so that is the event input is just on event object, and you will get this. Okay, now the question is, how do we internally implement this? I'm going to show hands-on on that. Ready? So the next hands-on would be on Lambda functions. So guys, I'm going to demonstrate everything with Python understanding only. I hope you guys know Python very proficient. If not, I'll demonstrate the code example, how Lambda actually is working here. Ready? Excited, guys? If you're excited, I can take this continuation of it with the more interesting aspects. So how am I going to demonstrate Lambda? What's going to be working here? I'll tell you. So I can write one class name called Lambda context. I'll write a init method. I will take generally what I'll do is how Lambda basically, how Lambda actually stores is that it will take a function name for an event, and that function name I'll store inside a self instance object, function name, memory limit, variable, timeout, and AWS request ID. I'm storing this all inside a init method of a class object. Okay, that is fine. So then I'm writing one, here you can see there, I've written one Lambda handler, which takes an event and context. So if you observe in this event, what I'm going to do here is carefully see this to demonstrate this code. So I have written one function which takes event and context. I have written one more function which takes an event. So let's say what happens here. So what I'll do here is I'll simulate like this code. Observe this code. How will I do a simulation? First, I will try to invoke lambda function. Means I'll call this guy. I'll pass event. What is event? Event is something like a dictionary. You can pass a dictionary object. In this case, I'm passing a dictionary object which takes name and Venkatesh. So key and value. Okay, key and value is what I'm passing. Okay. So when I call this function, what happens? It will take this event. So what will I do? You observe here. Okay, I will call inside this Lambda handler with passing this event what you passed, and I'll take something called as context. So this context is warm context. What is this warm context? You can observe top. I would often see warm context is initially none. Okay, that is not a problem. Then I have, if it is not none, then I'll create a Lambda context object. This is Lambda context. This Lambda context object is this guy. This is this guy. This guy. So what I've done, I'll tell you. What I'll make sure I'll make you understand easily. So if an event is simple example, I'll tell you. So no need to take any complication here. If I'm passing an input, what is the input I'm passing is a dictionary object. This is what I'm passing. So I'll be getting one event. I'll get an event that is called what? Dictionary object. Okay. So then along with the dictionary object, I'll create currently global warm context. What is global warm context is initially it is none. So if I say not of none, it means it's going to become true. Correct. So then I'll create I'll be creating a class object. What is a class object? Is Lambda context object I'll create. This Lambda context object will have function name something called, it will store something my Lambda, memory limit and timeout. Means what? For associated event, for one associated event, it will create one class object. So what is Lambda internally working is, you have one event, for associated that event, there is a class object. Okay. So this event and class object, both I am passing to Lambda handler. Check this. Lambda handler takes event and it will take the associated class object. So it will be passed to this guy. You can observe here. It will come here. The event and context. What is context? Context is actually nothing but your warm context is nothing but this class object. Okay, we'll get that both of them here. So then I'll check whether there is a cold start flag because it says initializing Lambda. If you want to initialize it, then I wrote a time.sleep for simulate cold start latency. That is okay. This is a basic thing. Then post is what I have done here. Yeah, we will get you this code all in repository, all the code, don't worry. Definitely, I'm going to send you that code, guys. So what is happening after this internally? What's happening? Internally, what is happening after this? After this, something is great is happening. That is something everyone has to understand. So I will be getting this particular event and object, right? So once I get this event and object, you can see here what something we are doing here, not this here. Here you see. What we will do, observe this. We will convert that event information into JSON.dumps. Means what will happen? The dictionary will be transformed to JSON object. That is one thing you have to understand. It means what? Your event information will be JSON.dumps. What will it do? It will transform into a dictionary into JSON object. Okay. Then I will also do one more thing. I'm printing here context.function name. What is the function name? And will also print request ID. What is the AWS request ID? I'll be printing here. But actually, this is an actual business logic. I'm simulating simple example, not giving you complex example. Okay. So in this, what I do is I call a event.get function, and that event.function get function is here. Okay, so that is something I have written here. I think once again, event.get. Okay. So event is actually, I think its event is now already a dictionary object. Now, a dictionary object, I have a method called what? Get, I'll call a get thing. And this get will be passed with what? Name and guest. Okay. Then here what I'm doing is I'm writing a message. That message is actually some string message. Now, in the response, I am dumping this message. Okay. But for this event. So this event, if you want, see this event is coming from here. That is event is nothing but what? A dictionary object. So you can check here event dot. If I say this is a dictionary, na? So dictionary has a method called get. Observe that. So in this get, I'll pass what? A key. I can pass multiple keys also. That is not a problem. So if I get that name, key, and value, I mean multiple. So in this dictionary, basically dictionary has dictionary get method. If you are get method anytime you are using it, usage of it, if you are doing it here. So mostly the get method is to access the values in the dictionary. So mostly the values I am trying to get, what, name and guest. So let me see here, name and guest values I want to get here. So key is name, and the default value is default value. If you want, you can pass it. Otherwise, you can write on just get of if you write get of key name. So I will try to get some information into this name, and that name I'll be appending it to your lambda and then returning that here. Okay, that is something I'm doing here. That nothing more than that I'm doing here. Okay. So this is exactly internally a simulation of lambda. Lambda function means you're passing an event, and event is nothing but any data structure. Associated with that event, there will be one class object, and that class object will be passed to this lambda handler. And what lambda handler will do is that transform that event and context into another, to get you simulated event information, and then return that object. So you can just simulate this code here. So when you simulate this code, you would have got this understanding better in my code. So obviously, when I printed here, invoking the lambda first function, so you can see that invoking the lambda first, it would be here, this, sorry. Yeah, this is the word, invoking the lambda first, cold start, that should come first. Then I call this function invoke lambda. It will come here to invoke lambda, and definitely it's gonna invoke the lambda handler. So if it calls lambda handler, definitely it's gonna come here, guys. Understand? So it will definitely print this guy, cold start, initializing the lambda function container, and it will sleep for 1.5 seconds, and then cold start flag will be false. So then it will come to this code, this two codes, that is this function. It will say this function my lambda. The context dot function name, that is the function name is what, my lambda, and request ID will print here. So then it will say event received is this data. I told that it will transform the dictionary into JSON object. Okay, name and Venkatesh. Then the business logic is what, event.get, it will get this information. The key is pass name, and it will get that information. And then that information name, I'll append it, hello from lambda, that is, I'm appending it here. And then I'm giving a response status 200. That is what happening here. In the body, you can see that it is printing you the message, hello Venkatesh from lambda. So in fact, I'm doing directly returning a message, but they don't do that way. They will pass a function, they'll pass a lambda callback function and then do that. But I didn't demonstrate with a callback function, but yeah, I am demonstrating is only one thing, is that this function name is there. Now I'm storing it as my lambda. So where is the definition of this function name? I didn't define, but to make you understand, for this event, this my lambda function will be automatically invoked. You can say that. So in fact, if this function was executed, assume that for this function execution response is something you can think like something like this message is what you get, something, imagine like that's immunization you can do here with the example. I hope all the audience understood it here. Any questions here for how SWE lambda works here? Any questions here?